All I know is my mom comes from an alcoholic family, and she has 4 sisters and a brother. The brother has been in and out of rehab time after time after time. My 4 aunts, all of them got pregnant before they got married. And all I knew was no matter what, don't get pregnant. Because my mom said, and she denies knowing this, but, you know, I have the, well, except for that apparently, but I have this pretty good memory. And I told her, and she told me, she says, Michelle, don't get pregnant. If you do get pregnant, I'll have to take you out in the field and shoot you. And I know she was portraying her seriousness of this. She didn't mean it that way. But I knew nothing about relationships. I was probably 14. I mean, all I knew is don't get pregnant. That is all I knew coming into relationships. I had no clue what I was supposed to do. I came from a family where, well, even now, my ex-husband had an affair. My stepdad had an affair, my dad had an affair. All I knew is don't get pregnant and don't trust guys.
I grew up, as I said, the sheltered good little boy, and with this healthy fear of anything having to do with sexuality whatsoever, branded into my brain. And I did pretty well with that through high school and college. I was the legalistic good little boy. I got out of college, and I started questioning, going, what is the deal? Because I joked that I went to Christian schools, and my sex education that I received was sex is terrible, dirty, and wrong, so save it for the one you love. And unfortunately, there's truth in the way that's what was portrayed. That's not true, but it was the way that was portrayed was true. And this had been hammered so strong of, you know, the evilness of sex that I started to question it. I think parents, we do a disservice when we just say don't do it to our kids, because sex is enjoyable. It was created that way. It's supposed to be that way. And when we say, you know, it's kind of like when we talked about drugs, you know, when you say to your kids they're horrible and then they try them and they're like, wow, that's actually pretty fun, you've lost all credibility. And what I heard was, don't have sex because you can get STDs, you could get the girl pregnant, and it will wreck you emotionally. And I thought, well, I have a lot of friends who've had sex, and they're not jumping off of tall buildings. They don't seem that wrecked emotionally. And I've learned enough in school that there's prevention that you can use for the other two. And so I started having a severe crisis of faith between me and God, going, God, did you lie? Or is this merely a thing that you said no because you just wanted to say no? Because it's fun to be an authority figure and say, no, you can't do something because I told you so. And I realized, okay, God is a God of positives. What's going on here? And this started for me a search that is the cornerstone of a biblical view of sexuality. It goes back to the book of Genesis in the next verse. Genesis 2, verse 25. Now the man and his wife were both naked, but they felt no shame. Man and his wife were naked, and they felt no shame. Woohoo! Yeah. The man and his wife are in the garden alone. And there's something very interesting that happens right after sin. Because when sin happens, they find fig leaves. Shame has come in. They are no longer naked without shame. They are now naked with shame. And as I prayed about this and I searched this, I came to a realization that what this is talking about is so much more than physical nakedness. This is talking about complete and utter transparency with another person. Complete vulnerability with another person. Complete nakedness in every level. Emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, sexually. It's that person that knows you better than you know yourself. It's that person that knows every corner of your mind. It's that person that knows who you are so deeply and yet brings no shame to it. does not condemn who you are, loves and accepts you with all the strange thoughts that you never thought you could share with anybody else. With the deep thoughts that run through your mind. With the cry of your heart after God. They know every piece of that. That's what sex is really all about. We're talking about holistic sex. We're talking about sex that is not just the meeting of two bodies, but is two becoming one. It's about two creations being completely united. Intellectually, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all united, working together. What we do is we try to segment our lives and segment our sexuality. We try to break it apart in a way that God did not create it to be. And yes, you can have sex divided. You can have sex that way, and yes, it will be pleasurable, but it is not great sex. And every time that you enter into sex this way, you start to break apart your ability to have great sex, because each piece starts to become pulled apart from each other, and it becomes more and more difficult for you to bring them back together holistically and give yourself to someone completely. Okay, so when I was in high school, and they start talking to you in classes and stuff about dating,